So what is up, everybody? It is March the 31st. Joe here, budgetboss.ca. It is day 7 of my campaign to bring financial awareness during this COVID-19 crisis. It is the last day of March. It is the last day of this quarter. It is the last day of the longest month I think we've all ever had to live in the history of our lifetime. So if you're joining me on IG Live, thank you for joining me. If you are not joining me on IG Live, that means you're watching this video later on, which will be posted on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, IGTV, everywhere you want to be. So check out the post. I'm jumping into mortgage and renting during the COVID campaign, during the COVID crisis. Right about now, our boy Justin Trudeau is about to get on TV and give his daily briefing. So what I want to do is discuss basically what the mortgage deferral program looks like, what you can do to make sure you take care of your home during this period of time, what you can do to make sure you're actually taking care of your rent and your four walls during this period of time. The big thing about it that people need to understand is that the government benefits will only get you so far, but they're meant to be to actually take care of the necessities, not to give you extra money. They're meant to give you money in general if you have lost your source of income. So that is why they're being put in place, and they're not really going to fully take effect till the 10th of the month. So the big thing about it, tomorrow is April 1st, and rent is due. Mortgage is due. Everything is going to be due. So what are we going to do about this? What can we do about this? So I'm going to jump into that. But first things first, as usual, market update. And we got a mixed bag of worms today in the market. TSX is up. It's up a good amount as well. This is apparently coinciding with the up in price of oil, or basically the optimism in the price of oil. So our market in Canada is largely energy dependent. So the big thing about it, TSX has optimism in terms of our energy sector, which has not been doing well lately. So that could be the cause for the jump in the TSX. Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ all have modest gains or losses, so not too much going on there. So the big thing about it is that markets are going to have up and down periods over the next little while. I still think we have not hit rock bottom yet, and that is when all of a sudden people start releasing their quarter one profits or lack thereof. So be prepared for possibly more losses. But at the same time, it doesn't change what we're trying to do here and where we're going with our investment strategy. Again, we're not getting out of the market or scaling down aggressiveness. The only thing we may be doing is sitting on the sidelines and jumping in or scaling up aggressiveness. The reason being is because we are still at around a 20% loss overall, and we don't want to be jumping out. We don't want to be jumping out of the market at a down period of time, which will just crystallize our loss. So I'm going to jump in, answer a question if I can for Mr. Matt on IGTV or IG Live. So any info on why so many CEOs resigned or left their positions in the past 6 months? See, that's an interesting question. And I mean, it almost ties into some of what's happened in terms of the market, in terms of senators, I believe, or congressmen um, actually leaving the market before the market drops substantially. So one thing about it is that we do understand that there are some people that are privy to information in terms of investing, in terms of how the markets or what trends may happen. The biggest question we have to ask ourselves is that have to do with our everyday life. Um, in terms of paying dividends, companies not paying dividends, the biggest thing about it is they're trying to keep their house afloat. So if they're being asked not to pay dividends, I think partially one of the reasons would be the fact that they need to focus on paying their employees. So if you have to choose between paying a dividend or paying your employees, one thing that was certain before is that they would usually choose to pay the dividend. Reason being is because paying the dividend is what instills confidence in the investor and which helps generate money, brings people into the fold of investing in that company, and then therefore they can hire more employees. So if you look at the major banks, instead of slashing the dividend, what they'll do is lay off people because that is their hallmark. They pay that dividend. Right now, slashing employees at this period of time, in terms of the major players, unless it's a layoff or something along those lines. If these people are being bailed out by the government, but they're using this money from bailouts to actually pay dividends, that wouldn't look good. I think the big thing about it right now is optics. What do the optics look like? And you see a lot of companies that are trying to seem socially responsible during this period of time. And that is a huge thing because ultimately we have people dying, we have people getting sick. And the big thing about it, if you're a callous company that is focused on paying a dividend as opposed to retaining employees or paying their salaries, then that will not look good on you once this crisis is over. So in this period of time where everything is out in the open, people are actually voting companies for their lack of compassion during this period of time. I think a lot of it is just a face-saving measure to retain some earnings. Obviously, there's profit involved with it or lack thereof profit, so they're trying to save profit. But then also part of it is if we're going to slash dividend or slash employees, we'll choose to slash dividend right now just because of the fact that it would look bad on us. Also, there's the fact that a lot of these major large cap companies are down. So if their value has gone down, we're talking about trillions or billions of dollars being lost from a stock that was at $90 and now is at $60. So it's lost 30% of its value. Now that will come back. In the meantime, though, if they still have to pay a quarterly dividend, that eats away at their profits and it eats away at their ability to function as a unit, considering how the economy is pretty much ground to a halt. So I think that's part of it. In terms of CEOs resigning, if I were CEO of a major company, I probably want to deal with this right now. And a lot of them are actually quite well-to-do, so maybe they just jumped ship. Maybe they didn't prepare themselves for this position that they're in right now, and that's why the proverbial shit would hit the fan. So they left before that happened. So I think that might be part of it too. A lot of weaknesses will be uncovered as this goes along. I think what this situation is doing is it's exposing a lot of weakness within our economy and within our own personal lives that the chickens will come to roost, and we're going to start to see exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So that's our market update. Again, a mixed bag of worms. TSX is up. Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ are all kind of hovering around the even mark. So not too much to say on the American front. But in Canada, we are happy in the sense that the TSX is up. We are still down overall about 20% since our market high of around 17,000, between 17 and 18,000. So we need to get to that point. But for now, we will follow the trend up and hope it continues. Again, I would stress the fact that it probably will not. So let's jump into actually what I want to talk about today, which is mortgage deferrals and coping with housing during the COVID pandemic that we're dealing with right now. So as many of you know, and as many of you have already taken advantage of, the government has implemented, or not the government, but the major lenders have implemented a 6-month deferral period on mortgages. So, yes, Matt, I would love to do that. Have a great day. Pattie Daycare from home. Matt Santagapato, Santa knows best. Locorum London, great guy, and always giving out great information. And me and him will definitely rock a Q&A soon. So keep your eyes open for that. We definitely have good banter when we get together. So, okay, so mortgage support. So, as many of you may know, major mortgage lenders and pretty much every lender across Canada has instituted a 6-month deferral period on your mortgage payments during this crisis. So that goes all the way until October. Now, what that means is you do not have to make your mortgage payment during this crisis, which is good. But there is caveats that go along with that. So I want people to understand what those are, and I want people to actually know what they're getting up against when they're dealing with this mortgage deferral payment period. So first things first, your lender specific, so make sure you actually go to the website of your lender or you call up your lender and you make sure that they are taking part in this program, which almost all of them are, if not all of them, but I know there's some oddball mortgage companies that I'm not sure of or So I don't know what they're up to, but the major lenders are all taking part. So that's something that you need to make sure you're actually looking up before you think that this is a thing. So basically, the whole purpose behind this is to help people who are experiencing financial hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a mortgage deferral, sort of like the student loan deferral period, where it's 6 months of payment deferrals. The big difference between the two is that the mortgage deferral is not interest free. I'm going to repeat, it is not interest free. This is not a free lunch. This is also not mortgage forgiveness. You are not being forgiven for your mortgage payments. Let's just get that straight. This is not free. This is a pause. And the pause costs money. Now, what you need to do in this situation is weigh the cost versus the reward. Both situations are pretty crappy, but what you have to weigh is, can I put food on the table, or can I take care of my family, or do I need to save this payment to do that during this period? That's what you have to actually weigh during this, and that's what they're not telling you. And if you look over the course of the past 2 or so weeks when this actual mortgage deferral system got put into place, the phone lines were blowing up. Actually, a lot of them crashed. You couldn't even get through because they just got zapped. Too many people calling too quickly. What this leads me to believe is that a lot of people went for this mortgage deferral, even though they may or may not have been impacted by the crisis. So the one thing about, they do ask you questions in terms of financial hardship during this period. Now, from what I gather, they're pretty lax. Now, I haven't made the call myself, so I don't know exactly the questions they ask. They will ask you if you've lost income due to this. They're going to ask you if you've been affected directly financially due to this. And then from what I gather, they're not too strict or stringent on their rules or regulations or questioning when they go through this. So it is not without questioning, so make sure that you are actually answering truthfully, I would say. But for the most part, I want people to understand actually the ramifications of this. Now, I'm not saying you should do it or you shouldn't. And this is why I talked last week about the budget before I talked about this. Because this, although this was still in effect or was in effect last week, I wanted people to actually focus on putting their budget in place so to see if they actually need this. Now, here's why. If you have savings in place and if you have a proper budget in place, the government economic response that I mentioned yesterday to this, the $2,000 a month for 4 months, chances are this will actually help you weather this storm. In my opinion, the mortgage deferral should be one of the last things you do. But at the same time, if you need to do it, you need to do it. I'm not above putting food on a credit card if I have absolutely $0. If that's what it takes to feed my family or feed myself, I will do it. At the same time, though, that is one of my last options in terms of that. So I put that one above sort of, the bare minimum worst option you can have. So in terms of actually taking part in the mortgage deferral, I want people to go to the combo expenses worksheet, look at the budget, and look at what you have coming in during this period. Now, I understand right now tomorrow's the 1st and the rent is due or the mortgage is due. So we're going to focus on mortgage, then I'm going to jump into rent a bit after. But if the mortgage is due, the mortgage is due. And if you don't have mortgage payment, then you have to do what you have to do. So I would go and skip that payment. But I'm not looking at this as a long-term solution or even a short to long-term solution. And by long-term, I mean the 6 months. 6 months. Now, if we're out of work for those 6 months, that could be the case. But at the same time, though, don't go into this thinking about it that way. Go into this thinking about it, I'm going to defer one payment because I absolutely have to right now, if that's the case. So how you know this is by actually having a budget. And that's why budget in my 7 steps to retirement system is number 1. You need to know what's coming in and you need to know what's going out every month. The bare minimum of what you need to get by, and that's your break-even number. So I'm going to go back to mortgage support. So this is from CMHC. So this is Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So dealing with mortgage payment difficulties. They have a page set up here. And by the way, I'm going to give you all the links to this underneath the post description so you can check it out for yourself. But the big thing is about it. They give you some tips. They want you to talk to your mortgage professional, clarify your financial picture, make sure you're understanding exactly what you're doing. Stay informed. take charge of your debts. And this is why when I talk about everything I talk about, it's literally because of situations like this. Is because in certain situations, I would rather people make a bare minimum amount of money and pay their basic bills than have to actually defer payments, accumulate more debt, or not make payments at all and hurt their situation in the future. So I want people to actually take charge of their situation. Now, right now, we're kind of in fire mode. If you look at all the posts and all the negative debt things I talk about on a regular basis, and people are this amount of money away from crisis in terms of that, I think the stat Canadians were $400. Most Canadians, it sounds like 35% of Canadians could not handle a $400 emergency. This crisis is more than a $400 emergency. If you can't handle a $400 emergency, what happens next? Mortgage deferrals. Government injecting money into the average person's pocket. That's what happens, right? So this is what we're dealing with right now. And the chickens, like I said, have come home to roost. We are now dealing with our debt crisis, our country's debt crisis, our individual debt crisis, and this is what's happening. So mortgage deferral, I want people to understand what they're up against. Again, this is a personal question that you have to deal with. I am not a fan of it. If you need to do it, you need to do it. Again, you got to take care of your family. You got to keep the roof over your head. So I'm going to show you a post here from the Canadian Bankers Association. So here's a statement they released. So during this period of unprecedented economic upheaval and financial uncertainty, Canada's largest banks are offering up mortgage payment relief to customers by the way of deferred mortgage payments. So it's available to all customers or all clients who are in good standing and have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I want people to understand that a mortgage deferral is not the same as mortgage forgiveness. Basically, your payments are skipped. They still accrue interest during that time. And I'm going to show you a calculator that can help you understand that a bit more. So I want you also to understand that on your bank's website, these are the places, or your lender's websites, these are the places that will show you all the details about how your specific lender is handling this situation. So this post here from, this is from ToDoCanada. It's basically stating all the underlying undercurrents for this mortgage deferral payment position that they're taking right now. They're skipped for a defined period of time, so you're going to be skipping them on a month-to-month basis. 6 months is what they're dealing with right now. The good thing about this post is it actually shows you a example of what your mortgage will look like after. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. And if you can't see it and you're on IG Live right now, go to the post afterwards. I'm going to be posting it on IG TV as well. So your initial mortgage balance, let's just say, is $1,000. You have 6 monthly payments that you're deferring all the way until October. Your payment's $788 a month, which you are not going to pay during that period of time. You have 15 years remaining on your amortization. Your payment's due April 1st, and that's the first one you're deferring, and then the next one all the way till the end of September. That's when the deferment period ends. This is going to change your monthly payment afterwards, so I want people to understand that. So you owe $100,000. At the end of it, you're going to owe $102,485. This is interest accrued during that period of time. This also changes your monthly balance or your monthly payment. So that's your payment plus interest. So you've gained a little bit of interest. So I want people to understand that as well. Now, it varies from lender to lender, so I want people to know exactly what's going on. This is not necessarily true for every lender. We're giving this example here. So this is from Scotiabank, okay? So your mortgage is going to increase by almost $2,500 by just skipping that payment. So there's no fee to skip your payment. When you skip a payment, the interest is adding on to the end of it. Your payments won't change during the term of your mortgage. So that's the big thing. Now, when they show that example, it kind of contradicts itself. I'm not exactly sure why they said that. So from what they gather, RBC, their payments won't change. Scotia, it looks like they may. Let's see. Yep. So this is Scotiabank. The above example shows a 5% interest rate with 6 months deferred. We'll add another $35.32 per month to the monthly payments of your total mortgage. RBC, your payments won't change. Scotiabank, it says your payments will change. That's why it's important for you to go lender to lender, because they're all completely different. Scotiabank, your payment's going to change. You're going from $788 to $823. RBC says it won't change, so we got to go with them for that. I want people to check out this calculator that I'm going to show right now. Now, this calculator is super nifty. It's from RBC, and it shows the actual cost of the mortgage deferral. So if you have a $1,000 a month mortgage payment, and you have 20 years remaining on your mortgage, and your interest rate is 3%, and I just picked these arbitrary numbers because these are kind of ballpark areas where most people reside in. Young couples, usually around 15 to 20 years remaining on their mortgage, or maybe a little bit more. Payment amount could be a bit more than 1,000, a little bit less. Nice round number. Again, I'm going to have the calculator in this link, and you can actually calculate yourself. Now, the reason why I picked $1,000 is because we can actually look at what it will be by the end of it. So let's just say you have a $1,000 monthly mortgage payment, 20 years, 3% interest rate. So this $1,000 monthly mortgage payment, you're going to defer it. We're going to pick 5 months because this calculator actually only goes up to $5,000. So $767 is what it will cost you over the remaining amortization of your mortgage. So over the course of the next 20 years, you're now going to pay an extra $767 because of this 1 month deferral. 1 month is going to cost you $767. This is why I'm saying it's not a free lunch. Now, if you skip 5 months, which is $5,000 worth of deferred payments, $3,835 is now what you will be paying extra on your mortgage because of that 5-month period. If you use the full 6-month period, obviously it will be longer. It will be more, I'm sorry. It will be more, I'm sorry. So that's a 20-year mortgage. Obviously, it varies between how much amortization you have left or your interest rate or how much your mortgage payment is. So check out this calculator. And honestly, that's why I'm saying it's not a free lunch. Because of this $3,800, you've now added almost 4 more months to your mortgage payment at the end just based on interest alone. So that is the huge X factor here. And I want people to understand, use the calculator, figure out how it works for you. Don't jump into this willy-nilly like it's nothing. It's definitely something. And I want people to understand exactly what the ramifications are. So, mortgage deferral. What we need to rank our priorities is this. If you have no income coming in and you have no savings, I would take the mortgage deferral. If you qualify for the Canadian Economic Response Benefit, so this is the $2,000 a month for 4 months. If you qualify for that, I would take 1 mortgage deferral and then pay your mortgage on the next billing cycle. Now, here's the thing. You have 2 people in your household, your mortgage payment is $1,500 a month, you both get the economic benefit from the Government of Canada, that's $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month for the next 4 months. If your mortgage payment is $1,500, there's no reason, in my opinion, why you cannot make that payment. Here's the X factor, though. If you have debts that are piling up, if you have no emergency fund, if your bills outweigh your actual $4,000 that's coming in with this benefit, then you're in major trouble. And that's why I keep stressing, get the budget sheet, figure out what you need to make every month to just survive, and understand that if the Government of Canada is actually going to be giving you enough to even do this. And that's why that's a huge thing. So I have a couple posts here that I'm going to be sharing with you. This is a dozen savvy mortgage tips, and this is a post that I released around a year ago, so about 11 months ago in April of 2019, and this is mortgage tips I give to people how to get ahead and take care of your mortgage in a more efficient, cost-effective manner that'll help you in the future. So what you need to know is basically so many people are clueless about their actual mortgage, and your mortgage specialist or a broker can actually help you with this. I can help you with this. I help people with mortgages as well. It's something that you should understand your mortgage. You should understand what's going on a regular basis, because if you do not, then you're finding yourself in a position where you're asking for a deferral, even though it may or may not be necessary or even in your best interest at this period right now. So check out this post. I have another one here, 9-step financial spring cleaning that I can be sharing as well. It is officially springtime, even though it doesn't feel like that. A year ago today, we got a ton of snow. Right now, the weather's beautiful, but we cannot enjoy it. So check out my post on 9-step financial spring cleaning. This may actually help you get yourself in a position where you can save some money on a monthly basis and not have to defer your mortgage. So I'm going to mention one other thing that I want people to understand during this period as well. So, okay. This is for everyone who's discussing renting and who are renting and are discussing rent strikes and stuff like that. The biggest thing that I want people to understand is that when you're looking at a situation like this, it's not about us or them. A lot of people think that a rent strike is what's needed to level the playing field. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on this, and I want people to fully understand how I feel about this, because I've been catching a little bit of flack. Obviously, it's online from people who are online and probably have nothing better to do than to attack someone who thinks a rent strike is stupid. I do think a rent strike is stupid, and here's why. I do think rent is far too expensive. That I will agree with. Rent is really, really expensive. It's tough for people to actually pay their rent. This I understand. I speak with clients on a regular basis and talk to them about their rent. I talk to them about how much of their budget is eating away, or how much rent is eating away at their budget, their housing expenses, just to live. It's way, way, way too expensive to rent. Now, here's the one thing caveat about that. A rent strike is not the answer to this. And the reason why is this. The biggest thing that we know right now is that the government has jumped in and placed a moratorium or a grace period in terms of eviction. So we cannot get evicted right now if we do not pay rent. What do we understand about that, though? What we understand about that is that that's not always going to be the case. That will end. That period will end. Evictions will take place. When that period ends, where will you be? That's the question. This is the main reason why I don't believe a rent strike is useful for anyone. I believe that you can find other ways to pay your rent, including, number one, speak with your landlord, speak with the agency that runs your building. Mine's a corporation. If I was having trouble paying rent, I would speak with them and devise a plan to pay that rent. A little bit of communication goes a long way. If you have private landlords, oftentimes they're dealing with financial stress right now. So an individual who owns a home that you rent privately from them, that person obviously will be dealing more than likely with the same issues you're dealing with. So they will have empathy, more than likely. Now, that's not the case for everyone. But would someone rather they cannot evict you, but would they rather get money in the middle of April as opposed to never? I think they would. Would they rather get money in the middle of April instead of going to the renters tribunal at the end of all this and trying to evict you? I think they would. It's about being reasonable and being understanding when the situation's going on. A rent strike is not the best way to go about this. Do I think the government needs to actually step in and control how high rents have gotten? Yes, I do. I believe rents have gotten far too high. It's too difficult for young people to rent a place. They oftentimes have to live with 3 or 4 people in very tight conditions, especially in major cities like Toronto. Rent is completely unaffordable in Toronto, especially with people in low-level jobs who actually have to live near their job because they cannot commute. So what I want is the government to step in and actually control that situation and make it easier for people to get into the renters market, because renting is a stepping stone to buying a home. Buying a home usually is fundamental to financial freedom, not always, but usually. So what I want people to understand is that the renters strike is not the actual solution to this problem. The problem is bigger than your rent being due on April 1st. What I want people to understand is they can find flexibilities in other bills that they have. So Rogers, for instance, I'd rather you pay your rent than pay your Rogers. I'd rather you pay your rent than pay your utilities. I'd rather you pay your rent than pay your internet bill. I'd rather you pay your rent. Honestly, I'd rather I pay my rent than have food, to be totally honest. I can go and spend $10 and get enough noodles and sauce to last me a month. I cannot be living on the street. Up Finance Josh, good to see you. IG Live. So I want people to understand that although there's some systemic issues in terms of rent being far too expensive, renters strike is not the issue. The biggest issue that people need to understand is that you're hurting yourself in the long run. If you get evicted next week or 5 months from now, what is the difference? You will get evicted. If everyone proclaims a renter strike, well, first of all, why would everyone proclaim a renter strike if everyone hasn't lost their job? Why? Why would everyone proclaim a renter strike when some people actually own properties and rent as well? My dad's first home that he owned, was not the home we lived in. We rented, and he rented out a home that he owned. We lived in a basement apartment while he bought this rental unit, meager rents that he charged at that time, affordable rents that he charged, and this was his stepping stone to us actually owning a home of our own. Renters strike is too broad of a subject for us to actually take it seriously, and that's the issue. When you're talking about renters strike, the thing is that people are acting as if it's a solution to a problem that we have right now when it's not. Things being too expensive is not, renters strike doesn't solve that problem. Affordability in the housing market, renters strike doesn't solve that problem. So this is what I want people to understand, and this is why I have a political tinge to things I speak about. This is why when people complain about certain forms of government, they complain about people in power. Well, you all voted in Doug Ford. And Doug Ford actually is the one who loosened up restrictions on increasing rent and eviction. He made housing go back 10 years, right? So this is why we need to actually pay attention to who we vote for and what we deal with what we're doing on a regular basis. So he won by an overwhelming amount. An overwhelming amount. People need to understand that this wasn't something that just happened. Okay. Yes, the party before him had huge problems under Kathleen Wynne, caused some major issues, and they actually didn't help our province at all for the most part. But you got to pick the lesser of multiple evils. And if you vote in Doug Ford, this is what you get. Okay, this is what you get. So now we're dealing with this situation where rent has become completely unaffordable for people. The housing market is completely unaffordable for people, and we're trying to deal with this and backtrack. So again, renters strike. Look for other options. Look for other options other than keeping the roof over your head. Where I'm from, we focus on keeping the roof over our head, and then everything else is secondary. Everything else is secondary. I mean, you're not going to have anywhere to put all the food you can eat if you're living on the street. I'd rather live in a house with no food, live on the street with tons of food. This is what's going on right now. So if the government is actually going to be able to give you your $2,000 starting in 10 days, they say it's going to take, it might take a little bit longer. Talk to your landlord, speak with them, find flexibilities in your budget, work on these issues before actually thinking about just not paying rent. If you can pay it, pay it. If you can't pay it, figure out a way to come up with this money. Find flexibilities, make deals with people from Rogers or Bell or whoever you're dealing with in terms of that. People understand what's going on right now. You can't be thrown on the street right now. I will tell you that. That is true. What will happen is that when this is all over with, you will be thrown on the street. So my main concern is not whether I not believe that rent is too expensive or not. I agree. I don't believe landlords are evil, but I do believe some of them are. I do believe some of them are slumlords and they don't take care of their responsibilities as a landlord, because being a landlord is a privilege and a responsibility. You have a responsibility to your tenants. I believe there's lots of slumlords, but that's a separate issue. If you are not going to pay rent because your landlord is a slumlord, then I fully agree with that. In my opinion, you shouldn't live there. You should move or take them to the renters tribunal to make this place better for you to live in. That's a separate issue. What we need to actually focus on is taking care of what's important to us, and that's paying our bills, taking care of ourselves. And that's why I keep showing budget tips to save money during this period. And I keep showing the benefits that the government is going to be giving us, because we need to save money during this period, and we need to actually focus on getting the benefits we need to keep the roof over our head. If you're getting that $2,000 a month, what are you spending it on? You're going to get your $2,000 a month, and you're going to strike on your rent. So what are you going to do with the $2,000? That's supposed to go towards your rent and your essentials? I just don't understand. What is that for? Right? Qualify for that. That means you're working. If you look at my post from yesterday, you see that the government's being really flexible with giving out this emergency money. So look to the emergency money to help take care of your essentials. Is it going to suck? Yes, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight. Very tight. I want people to understand that this is temporary. We're going to get back on our feet, and if we put some foundation in place right now, we can actually take care of our financial selves. So the next time something like this happens, maybe it won't be a pandemic. Who knows what it will be? But what will happen is we'll actually be ready for the next one. And the reason why so many people are hurting so much right now is because they're not financially prepared. Now, that sounds like me being callous. It's not. It's a reality. If you're $200 away from the edge, you're not prepared for something like this. government stepping in and helping you, which I am glad they're doing, and this is why I vote these people in place who will act quickly and take care of average. At the same time, it doesn't escape the fact that we are not prepared for this. We are not prepared financially as individuals to take care of ourselves during this period. And that's why I believe deferral is a last resort option, and the renter strike is a no option and a stupid option, in my opinion. I believe that people that claim this are actually looking after their own agendas and not thinking about the people that they're trying to aim to help. It's selfish, in my opinion. Because if you actually were looking after yourself and you were thinking about a renter strike, you would know that this is not going to end well for you, and you would not do this. So, on that note, what I want to actually do one more time is check out another market update before we take off. So, again, the markets are all in the positives right now. We're looking at, I'm sorry, I got my TV here on the Business News Network, but I also have the computer here on it. So, markets all in the positive. TSX still up. Dow Jones Industrial Average still up, or now up. S&P and NASDAQ all up. So we're looking at some modest gains for the American markets, a decent gain for the Canadian market. Hopefully this continues. And this is why we do not sell and we do not panic when things are lower. Because this could be the new low. This could be the new situation where we are going up and down from this benchmark spot. When we hit super aggressive lows last week, 19,000 on the Dow Jones, 30% drops in all the markets. If we got out and threw in the cash at that time, we would have missed a 10% uptick over the course of the past week. So what would you rather lose, 20% or 30%? Question, right? 20% or 30%. So ultimately, we need to make sure that we're not panicking during this period. The markets will go up and down, and I promise you they're going to go down again. But we need to understand is it's not a time to scale down the aggressiveness, maybe scale it up or wait on the sidelines if you don't want to deal with this nonsense, because it's going to be tumultuous times moving forward for the next little while. So again, all in the positives. Again, you can check me out, Facebook COVID-19 campaign. We're going to be talking about 30 topics, 30 days, all the way until May 1st, so a month from tomorrow. YouTube, every video is being posted on YouTube. Sorry, that's the YouTube page right there. Instagram, IGTV, everything's on there as well. Twitter, you can follow me on there. And, of course, you can add yourself to the email list. This is my contact. So you can add yourself to the email list and make sure that you get your bi-weekly updates from me via email. And also book a meeting if you would like. I'm more than happy to have a phone conversation with people about their investments, about the topics that are concerning them right now. And, of course, download the combo expenses worksheet. So all these tools and tips are going to be tagged in the description here, so I want people to check those out, as well as the economic relief plan from the Government of Canada. So this is it right here, support for individuals and families. Remember, your Canadian child benefit's going to be going up. GST in the month of May is going to be going up as well. There's the EI, that there's looser restrictions in terms of timelines for that, and of course, Canadian Economic Relief Benefit, the CERB, I believe it's called, and that's the $2,000 a month for 4 months. So if you can get that, apply for that. For the mortgage deferment period, make sure that you're contacting and checking out the website of your lending institution. The reason being is they all have different rules. I just showed you one example there, and I didn't even have to dig deep to do that. Scotiabank, your payment will rise. RBC, your payment won't rise. Are you okay with that? And again, this is why the budget is so important. You have to figure that out to make sure you're in the right standing with that. I'm going to dip into more of these topics over the course of the next week, and then next week as well, I'm going to jump into investments a little bit deeper and want people to fully understand their investment accounts. I've been talking about the markets a lot. Let's really dive into that and really understand what we need to think about during this period of time during the COVID pandemic. Okay, so have yourself a great day, guys. Check out all the links.